Hello, 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 and welcome to this month's amazing lineup on the Her Version Impact panel. Her Version just hit its 1 year mark and continues to grow at rapid rates. We just hit our 100th guest speaker last week. We have over 450 YouTube videos, over 90 audio podcasts, over 400 members in our Facebook group. Be sure to join us, and drum roll. We just launched our first and definitely not our last podcast marathon. For the first time ever in history, we have had 12 hours straight of females only speaking on our platform. We promise to continue to grow and expand and provide you with beneficial information to help you in your everyday life. I am thrilled to have a female panel filled this month as we speak about depression and anxiety, something so many women and men are dealing with, especially right now. The conversation around this topic will be broad and will guarantee to educate you on so many areas of your life. Join us as we dive deep into our personal journeys and what we have created for ourselves in order to better our lives. There will be live Q&A for those of you that are already jumping on live for the next 2 hours. So get your questions in the comments. For those of you that don't know me, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in.
Hello, ladies. So I've been trying, I went through the 3 questions. I've been thinking of questions as we're talking, and I think I'm going to go with what happened last night. And then I'll see what you guys would have done in my situation. There was a lover's quarrel in my backyard last night. And there was a kid with a gun on his shoulder, and the girlfriend grabbed him and said, "Don't do this." And he said, "Do you want me to blow my head off right now?" And she said, "No, I need you to go inside, put the gun down, and shut up." And that was very concerning to me. Uh, that this was all happening right outside my window, and they are my neighbors, so it was also concerning that something might happen in my own space. So we let it ride out, and just made sure there wasn't anything else going on. He ended up leaving. So yeah, I just really hope that they're okay. I have a feeling that alcohol was involved, because I've seen them do that from time to time. So what would you guys have done in my situation? Torie?
That's good.
So I have a little experience in this situation. I was a case manager for homeless people. And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, mental illness, drugs, and stuff like that. And so in that situation, I probably would have, 1, called the cops, and then 2, gone out there and been like, "Hey, is there anything you guys need right now?" Just to let them know, because the more people are watching, the less people do stupid stuff. And so it was like, me and the other case managers, if there was ever a situation, we would like send out the bat signal, and everybody would show up and just be like, "Hey, do you need anything? Is everything going okay?" And then the person kind of like saw themselves as an outside person and was like, "Oh wow, I'm about to do something really stupid. I'm gonna calm down a little bit." So that's probably what I would have done.
Thank you, Torie. Renee?
Torie, you are brave, because when I heard the word gun, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be under the bed. So I think that's a perfect response, actually. Or if I had the ring, I would maybe say it through the ring, like, "Hey, is everything okay? Can I help with anything?" Um, I think, as much as people lately are saying, don't call the police. The police are going to make things worse or whatever. When you have someone who's obviously behaving erratically and has the ability to actually carry out the thing they said that they're going to do, I think my first response would have been to call the police and probably plead with them to say, I don't think this person is a threat to you or to someone else, but they could potentially get out of control. They need help. Can you send, some, maybe an ambulance with the police, just to make sure that somebody can kind of, triage them and talk them down from what's going on. I think it's also important to know that as much as we want to help in situations like that, and can, to the extent that it doesn't compromise our own or safety, or our kids or our spouses or whomever we're in relationship with, as long as it doesn't compromise their health and safety, helping is not always what we need to do, right? Some things are just beyond our ability to assist with, and we need to be able to step away from the situation, call in the people who can do the work, and actually do help, and not bear any guilt for not wanting to get involved, right? I mean, there's just some things, like, for example, if that had been me last night, and let's just say that my husband wasn't here and I was just here with my two youngest kids, who are 8 and 9, there is zero chance that I was going to get involved, or go out, let them even know I heard them, right? Because I don't know how far that person may have taken it. So I probably would have taken my kids into a whole other room and played a game under the bed, right? Like, not let them get all alarmed. But we don't need any parts of that situation, because we don't need to get hurt, right? So I just think there's nothing wrong with stepping out and saying, I'm going to help, but there's also nothing wrong with saying, I cannot fix a situation, and I'm not going to compromise my safety.
It's good.
Yes, thank you, Renee. Anyone else like to add to this? Elizabeth?
Yeah, just on the heels of what Renee was saying, my thought process is always around, like, well, what happens after? What happens after the cops leave? What happens after, the bat signal's been responded to and everyone's said their piece? I'm always concerned about, like, what's the reaction? Like, look at what you made the neighbors do. Like, that's what I think probably I don't know. I have this, like, ooh, that's not my story. I'm not getting involved. that can tend to be, I mean, it would totally depend on my existing relationship with them, and how well I felt that I knew them. If I would, call the cops, or be the one to say something personally. Because I mean, yeah, I feel like the aftermath of, like, once they get back inside, what could be, what could potentially happen in the aftermath. I always, like, jump 5 steps ahead. I don't know. That's just where my brain goes. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been having issues with them for a while. This wouldn't have been the first time that I have called them out on something. So I would be concerned, because I have to live next to them, as far as, like, trying to really step in there and be like, you got to straighten up, kind of thing. So I would much rather someone else deal with that, as you said, Elizabeth. Anyone else? Sabrina.
This is a really tough one for me, because, I mean, how do you help somebody in a situation that they're stuck in if we don't say anything? Or, like, sometimes people need us to step in. So although, like, yes, our safety first, But then, like, where's the point in which we, you know, what if somebody's really, you know, in a bad spot mental? What if it's an abusive relationship? Like, we don't even know. And they could have gone outside because they need somebody else to hear to help. So I guess it's based on the situation. So, like, you're saying this is an ongoing thing. So obviously the police have been called at some point or another, I'm assuming. So if there was help needed, the female or the male or whoever's being abused would have had a couple of opportunities to be able to speak to authorities about the situation, I would hope. But the first thing that comes to my mind is the Gabby Petito whole crap. And like, she was being mentally, emotionally abused. No one even freaking knew it because it's so subtle. And the police got involved and she had an opportunity. Someone called, saw them arguing. And, you know, the police didn't quite maybe step in the way that they maybe should have. You know, hindsight's always 20/20. But that's the first thing that came to my mind as we're talking is like, you should step in, even if it's calling the cops. Like, maybe not you yourself, as Torie said, because you're like the neighbor. But as Torie said also, you know, sometimes you do need to intervene a smidge because you don't know who's needing assistance. Like, Gabby's this little tiny innocent little childlike woman, you know, who needed assistance and she didn't quite get what she needed. And then 2 people died because of it, you know. Scary.
Well, for me specifically, I had 2 very abusive boyfriends. One ended up in the mental institution, and then the other one ended up in the hospital because he wrecked his 4-wheeler and ended up, you know, puncturing his lung and all kinds of things after we broke up. So I understand, you know, at what lengths someone can go in a relationship. And so I was definitely thinking about those things last night as that was happening.
Yeah, it's scary. Totally. I know in my past, I mean, I wanted to call the cops and I didn't have the guts to call the cops. So if somebody else would have called the cops for me, I would have been so grateful because he would have held that against me if I would have done it, you know.
Right.
But if somebody else would have done it, that would have, and I would have been able to speak to somebody, that would have been such a relief. First of all, to know that somebody cared enough to do that. And then second of all, to be able to talk to some sort of authority who maybe would have told me like, hey, this whole situation's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know. I was totally naive. You know. Anybody else on Marie's question?